Holy God, ruler of the universe, you who brings forth bread from the earth, we give you thanks for this food that we are about to eat. We ask a blessing upon those who have prepared it, those who are present here in this room. We ask your blessing upon our conversation, that it might be holy and lift up your name. Lord, we pray that you be with those who aren't able to be here tonight, those who are sick or those who are just not able to come. Be with them and let them know that our prayer is with them. These things we all pray in your name, and all God's people say, amen.
And the dinner will now be served. If I can have our guest table to start our dining plan, please.
Vermiş olduğun nimetlere sonsuz hamdolsun. Senden bereket, rahmet ve mağfiret umuyoruz. Umduklarımıza nail eyle ya Rabbi. Ya Rabbel Alemin, sana inanıyoruz, sana güveniyoruz. Bizleri faydasız ilimden, doymayan gözden ve kabul olunmayan duadan sana sığınıyoruz. Bizleri rahmetinle taltif eyle ya Rabbi. Bütün inananlara ve Halil İbrahim bereketi ihsan eyle. Lillahi Teala Fatiha.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to first say welcome to the Mayor of Dayton. Say hello. And welcome to our distinguished guests and speakers. Thank you for joining us this evening, and everybody else, thank you for joining us this evening and joining us for the wonderful dinner that our foundation has served you tonight. I would like to start introducing the Niagara Foundation history and the event that is held every year. Niagara Foundation is a nonprofit organization founded in 1997 The purpose is to serve peace, love, and friendship wisely and compassionately in support of human dignity and the common good by striving to bring forth the common values of humanity, values such as understanding, respect, and compassion. Sayın misafirlerimiz, her sene araya gelip Niagara'nın düzenlediği bu geceyi özetlemek istiyorum. Niagara Derneği 1997'de kurulmuştur ve toplumumuza barış içinde sevgi dolu, dostluk edip hizmet etmek gibi, saygı ve merhamet gibi değerlerini, insan onurunu ve insanlığın ortak değerleri olan arkadaşlıkları tanıtmak için çaba göstermektedir. In order to build a better society, Niagara Foundation works together with people and organizations that foster excellence in public service by acknowledging the importance of spreading these most significant common values within the Ohio community. Daha iyi bir toplum inşa etmek için vakfımız, Ohio'yu kavrayan toplum içerisinde ortak değerlerin yaygınlaştırılması önemini kabul ederek, kamu hizmeti teşvik olduğu kişi ve kuruluşlar ile birlikte çalışmaktadır. Regardless of the world events today, the Niagara Foundation continues to bring together thousands of people from different communities, ethnic backgrounds, and to serve as the unity and work with Ohio area organizations, universities, through the monthly programs that is held in this building. Ohio bölgesi kuruluşları ve üniversitelerle işbirliği içinde ve bugünkü gibi programlar aracılığıyla Niagara Vakfı, farklı topluluklar ve etnik kökenlerden gelen binlerce insanla bir araya getirmeye devam ediyor. After this short endorsement, and let's talk about why we're here this evening. If you're a frequent participant in Niagara's events, you know that the programs that are held here always have a theme. And tonight's dinner is put together around the theme of Perspectives in Abrahamic Traditions Education. We see this as a unique opportunity for us to come together and celebrate the commonalities in our traditions, offer new friendships that you are sitting together, and as well as strengthen our existing relationships by breaking the bread together, sharing some quality time, as you have just done so, and learning about each other. So please, talk to each other, network, even after the event is over. Bu gece buraya geldiğimizin açıklamasını hemen bir özetleyeyim size. Programlarımızda sık görülen bu bir katılımcıysanız biliyorsunuz ki her zaman bir tema olarak kapsamında bir araya geliyoruz. Bu akşam yemeğimizin konusu İbrahim hadislerindeki perspektifler eğitim teması etrafında bir araya getirmek içindir. Bir araya gelip bizim geleneklerde ortak kutlamak için, bizim kültürlerimizin bağdaşması için bir fırsat olarak görüyoruz. Bu gece birlikte olduğunuz, masayı paylaştığınız kişilerle devam ettik. Birlikte ekmek yedik, kaliteli zaman paylaştık ve birbirlerimizin hakkında konuları öğrenerek mevcut ilişkileri güçlendirmek için dostluklar kurduk. Now I would like to invite Mr. Serkan Aykan. He is the Executive Director of Niagara Foundation of Ohio Chapter to make the opening remarks.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As the Executive Director of Niagara Foundation, I would like to thank all of you for sharing a meal with us tonight and at the same embodying principles of our organization. Our special thanks goes to Turkish American Society of Ohio, American Alston, Turkish Society, our distinguished speakers, Mr. Ellen Brown, Reverend Carol Hanhart, Professor Ismail Gulam, and our MC, Ayşe Kim. And of course, Mayor Gary Litzel for his great support, countless gracious volunteers, without whom none of this would be possible. Let's have a big applause for them once again. This is an evening of interfaith dialogue among the people of three Abrahamic faiths, Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Tonight, we have a very diverse group with representatives from a variety of different institutions. It is a distinct honor to be in the company of such distinguished friends. Today, one has to accept the fact that modern means of communication and transportation have transformed the world into a large global village. In this small village, nations and people are more in need of and depend on each other. This intra and interdependency of nations causes closer mutual relations. Therefore, we need to recognize that interfaith dialogue is not a luxury anymore. It has become not only desirable but also necessary. It is with us this understanding that tonight's dinner is organized, and it is hoped that it will serve as a good reference for educational institutions, media organizations, government agencies, and other community groups. By coming together here at one table, we can prove that this is a situation of great richness with remarkable opportunities for mutual understanding and for creating a society rooted in common values. We can demonstrate to society the idea that people can live together regardless of group, faith, or ideology as the children of Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him. The goal of tonight's dinner is to bring the people of the Abrahamic religions together with an emphasis on what these religions have in common rather than how they are different, and to act together on common issues with a stronger trust like the people in the same family. Thank you. Peace be with you.
Thank you, Mr. Icon. We will now show a short video about Prophet Abraham's hospitality. So please pay attention to the screen. Thank you.
Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him, is known to be the father of the prophets. As chosen beings, God gave each of his prophets a unique identifying characteristic. Prophet Abraham's distinguishing trait was his hospitality. History tells us that he never had a meal without a guest in his house. In fact, he invited guests over to his dinner table every night, and he refused to eat at all if there was no guest to accompany him. And so, our story tonight is about how Prophet Abraham came to value hospitality so much. One day, an elderly atheist knocked on Prophet Abraham's door and asked to be accepted as a guest in his house. Prophet Abraham told him, "You are of no religion. You do not believe in God. How can I accept you as my guest?" Saddened by these words, the old man turned around and walked away. Right then, God asked Prophet Abraham, "Oh, Abraham, why didn't you accept that man as your guest? What harm could it have done to you if he joined you for supper for one night? Even though he's a non-believer, we have fed and clothed him for 70 years. Prophet Abraham stayed awake all night in pain, thinking about what he had done, and left at dawn in search of the elderly atheist. When he finally found him, Prophet Abraham invited him to eat at his house that night. Thus began the tradition of Abrahamic hospitality, reflecting a big tent approach to compassion, from which no fellow being is excluded. Prophet Abraham, peace be upon him.
This evening we will hear insights regarding the education in Abrahamic religions. And I would like to give a short bio of our first guest speaker, Mr. Alan Brown. He's a graduate of Syracuse University with a Bachelor of Science degree in Communications, majoring in advertising, photography, and minoring in art history. Mr. Allen's company, Photonics Graphics, is a graphic design and a web development company celebrating 23 years of business. In his spare time, he serves on the board of the Jewish Federation of Cincinnati and the Jewish Secretaries of Greater Cincinnati. He is a former president of his congregation, Beth Adam, and is starting his term as chairperson of the Beth Adam Finance Committee. He's a co-chair of the Partnership Together initiative of the Jewish Federation of Cincinnati and the Jewish Agency for Israel between Netanya, Israel, and the Jewish community in Cincinnati, and actually lives in 2 days for 2 weeks in Israel. So, I would like to invite Mr. Alan Brown to give us a little speech.
First of all, I'd like to be able to say words to my Turkish brethren, and forgive me if I do this wrong. I'll try. Merhaba. That's okay. Borda Ola Kirika. Did I say that? Yeah. It's great to be here. Yeah. Thank you. Google Translation. To start off with, what I'd like to do is read a quote by Rabbi Samuel Berkowitz, who is the Hillel director at the University of Pennsylvania in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Hillel is an organization that provides a Jewish experience for Jewish students on college campuses. And he said, Judaism is a way of life which brings together the seemingly irreconcilable elements of faith and reason, belief and understanding. An individual's life, Judaism maintains, to be satisfying and meaningful, must of necessity combine these two elements, faith and reason. Okay, so that said, I have to have full disclosure here that I am not clergy. I think I'm the only one here that does not represent the faith as a clergy. I do not feel comfortable saying that I speak as the voice of the Jewish people, because the Jewish people really is a wide, diverse group of people. We don't have any central authority, and there are many, many, many ways to experience and participate in Judaism. Some of you may know that there are three major sects of Judaism: Orthodox, Conservative, and Reform, but there are many, many, many other types of Judaism. In fact, a few years ago, the Jewish Foundation of Cincinnati conducted a survey in Cincinnati. And the survey found that only 6% of the Jewish community in Cincinnati were actually Orthodox Jews. And these are the people that most people think are Jews because they see long beards, black hats, and think therefore they must be Jews, but they only represent 6% of us. And as a matter of fact, the particular group that I'm in, which is Humanistic Judaism, we also represent 6% of the Jewish community in Cincinnati, which is something that really surprised most other people. The other thing I wanted to point out is that there's a very big difference in Judaism between secular and religious Jews. Many people will tell you in Judaism that we are a people first and a religion second. And I think that tends to bother some people, but the truth of the matter is that many people can be Jewish but never practice the religious faith of Judaism. And I have to say that I was probably one of those people many years ago. I was happily unaffiliated, and I actually married outside of my faith. My wife, Christy, who's with me tonight, is Christian. And at the time, that worked out perfectly fine for me. My daughter was 2 years old, and she asked me one day to come and speak to her second grade class about Hanukkah. And wanting to be able to make sure that I could talk to second graders and say something interesting about Hanukkah, I did what everybody does these days. I went online to see if I Googled Hanukkah, what I would come up with in terms of stories, and I stumbled across a congregation called Congregation of Beth Adam, which means House of People. And I don't really know what came over me at that particular time. I really wasn't looking for any form of religious experience, but I read what they were about. They had a website, which back in that day, 16 years ago, was pretty unusual, and I was fairly interested in what they had to say. I ended up calling the synagogue. The rabbi answered the phone, which I thought was pretty unusual. I talked to him for about a half an hour, which I also thought was pretty unusual. And I ended up coming to a service and feeling that it was actually fairly interesting to me. There were a lot of people in the room that espouse some of the same beliefs and philosophies towards education and science that I was very interested in. So I guess the point is that that perspective on Judaism is both secular and religious, and there are many, many ways to go about doing this. So what I wanted to talk about tonight, more importantly, is a particular thing that Congregation Beth Adam is doing that I think you might find interesting. First of all, I want to tell you that one of my rabbis, Rabbi Robert Barr, believes firmly that most Jews have a very parochial idea of education on Judaism. Most Jewish children, when they reach the age of 13, they become a bar or bat mitzvah. And at that point in time, as soon as they finish that, their religious education stops. They typically stop going to school, and the end result is all of their memories of what it means to be Jewish stops at age 13. And the rabbis felt that, gee, this is not really right, that we need to be able to set an example to be able to help our children learn beyond, as well as we have lots of adults who can stand to learn something of their religion. And so what came about from this discussion of our children going away to school and how can we continue to reach out to them, and adults who really don't understand what it means to be Jewish, the idea came about to start an online Jewish congregation. The name of the congregation is ourjewishcommunity.org. And in that congregation, this is an online community, anybody can join. There is no fee or donation that you have to make. But the idea was that there were a lot of people out there that these ideas might resonate for them as well. So to give you a couple of facts, there are, in the Jewish community in Cincinnati, and I understand that this statistic is pretty accurate worldwide, but there are approximately 50% of the Jewish population, those people that self-describe as being Jewish, are unaffiliated. And by unaffiliated, I mean they do not belong to a synagogue, nor do they necessarily practice the religion of Judaism. Over 16% of those people that are affiliated participate, only 16% participate in their Jewish religion monthly. Jews under the age of 35 are critical of established Jewish institutions and are less likely to join a synagogue as a result of that. And I guess another thing that really plays into this is that people are increasingly more and more mobile, and that they find the community online to be somewhat satisfying. I think you can look at Facebook as a really good example of how online communities have really flourished. And that many Jews are looking for a connection to Judaism that embraces the modern thought. That some of the traditional aspects of Judaism really no longer seem like they're relevant to them. And so our Jewish Community.org's vision, and this was back in September of 2008 that we started it, was to provide an online spiritual home, a meaningful voice, and a resource for people worldwide seeking a contemporary Jewish identity and experience through the use of new media and technology. I think what's interesting, too, is that we provide a number of resources so that families can teach their children about different aspects of Judaism, and people can actually download articles and listen to podcasts and a wide variety of things. But originally, OJC as we call it, was launched providing resources for the high holidays, which are Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Purim for us, and they video streamed those services. Content was originally built around those holidays because this is like, for many Christians who probably understand this concept, that many Christians show up at church around Easter and Christmas and not much in between. It's not all that uncommon in Judaism for Jews to only show up at high holidays. So the idea was to provide a way for people to reach out and join other people in the community without necessarily having to be there. And so while the Jewish holidays were our starting point, and they are the busiest, the online congregation is actually doing work year-round. Just to give you an idea of what we've accomplished, there are over 550 pages of content, 100 video podcasts, 130 online services, and 175 podcasts, audio podcasts. So the target audience actually was somewhat interesting to us because we expected that most of the people that would be coming to OJC would be in their 20s to 40s, which is an age group that tends to feel fairly comfortable with technology and we felt was looking for a meaningful Jewish experience, but didn't want to belong to a bricks and mortar establishment. But we also found that we appealed to many empty nesters in the 50s and 60s, and we also found that there was a significant number of elderly participants who wanted to have a Jewish experience, but they were not able to leave their homes. In terms of some recent successes that I'd like to point out, in the 4 years that we've been around, we've had 200 major news stories about OJC, CNN, Huffington Post, the New York Times, and the Jerusalem Post. OJC has been named one of the 50 most innovative Jewish organizations in North America by an organization called Slingshot. And we were awarded what's called a WAMI, which is a word-of-mouth marketing award. And the year that we were awarded it, we were handed out that award along with Ford Motor Company, Sony, and Best Buy. So we thought we were a really, really good company. So far, in terms of the reach that we have, we are global, and we are actually, as far as I can tell, every country in the world except for 5. We are not yet, but I'm still hopeful. Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Sudan, and Angola are the only ones so far. Very soon. We are in all 50 states. That is to say that people come to our site from all 50 states. 78% of the people who do come are from the U.S., and 35%, this is actually interesting to me as a web developer, are all accessing through a mobile device. 35% coming to have a Jewish experience online through their cell phone or iPad, which I'm not sure what that means, but it's interesting. In the last 30 days, in terms of people coming to the site, we've had over 4,000 unique visitors, and we've had, in the world of web, we talk about how many pages did each person look at, and the cumulative total for the last 30 days is over 17,600 page views, which is actually a very significant number. In general, since we started, we've had over 100,000 computers access OJC. We've had over 250,000 participants, 10,000 Facebook likes, 3,000 Twitter followers, 40,000 people who have attended Sabbath, Shabbat services or high holiday services. And as some of the stories that I've read about on Facebook are, not everybody is necessarily addressed or is dressed to attend the service, but they are there anyway. We've also had over 60,000 YouTube views. This high holidays, last September, October, we had approximately 30,000 viewers, which is up from 20,000 in 2010, which I think gives Congregation Beth Adam the bragging rights of being able to say that we have the largest congregational attendance of high holidays of any Jewish congregation, really anywhere in the world. It's a pretty phenomenal thing. So we're really excited about these successes and where this might take us, recognizing that there really is a strong thirst for a meaningful Jewish experience that isn't just an experience from the past, but one that is extended into modernity. So with that, I'd like to say, Tesh El Kumar,
Master's of Divinity in 1996 with an emphasis in pastoral care. He was ordained in 1997 and called to serve 2 small churches in Wisconsin. In 2002, he was called to serve Slipers Church the church in Farmersville, Ohio, where he is currently a pastor. He is very interested in church transformation and is working together with members of his church to seek and live out their mission. Reverend Henhart, please join us on the stage.
How's that? Can you hear me all right? All right. I'm so glad to be here. I am actually from a foreign country. Don't look like it, but from Canada. I was born there, and my parents live in Holland. My sisters and brothers, etc. So it's great to be amongst a diverse group. I always really enjoy that. I want to thank Serkan Ayakan for inviting me. I got to meet him at the restaurant the other day. And the reason I'm here actually is because of Ramazan, who knows everybody. And he also knows me, and he invited me to come and speak, which was a big surprise to me. But I'm happy to share some things about education with you tonight. I wanted to start with a Christian joke. Don't know if you'll get it, but I'll try. It's about this little boy, little Johnny. He's not doing very well in math. It's education night, so it's math. He's flunking all of his classes, and his parents are very upset. They don't know what to do. They get him a tutor. They give him extra rewards to try and get him to do well in math, and he's just not doing good. So finally, they decide to send him to a Christian school to see if that would help. And a week later, sure enough, he's doing great. Awesome. Passing all of his tests, doing great. So they asked little Johnny, why is it that you're doing so well in math? What are they doing? He goes, well, the first day I walked into math class, and they had a guy hanging on a plus sign in the room, and I knew I was in big trouble. Christian joke. I think it does illustrate something, though, and that is that a lot of us don't do a very good job of teaching our kids about our faith. And so many know just a little bit, but not really deeply any of what our tradition and our God would like us to know. And so I thought I would talk a little bit tonight about my journey with that, a little bit about journey with faith and reason. And I didn't know you were going to say that, by the way. Faith and reason. Abraham in our tradition is someone who we hold up with a great amount of faith, who has a great faith as a model for us. He's the one that, after God told him to take everything he had and go to a place where, who knows where it would be, that he had faith in God, that he would take his stuff and follow what God asked him to do. Took Isaac up the mountain and had faith that God would do something with Isaac and with him. Abraham had faith. And so Abraham believed in God that we all do too. And faith is an important element of that belief. So who is this God, we ask ourselves, and we want to know more about, and we learn and look at all through our lives. We've tried to understand more about God. Look at psychology, look at history, look at languages, look at science, prayer, everything to learn more about God. And we have a lot of desire to know more about God. And our effort is put into that. Though Abraham's avenue is faith. Ours is often reason. We think more about reason. How can we know more and learn more about God through our intellect, through our reason, through the way we think? And my denomination, Presbyterians, love to think about stuff. We're not as good on the faith, mystic part of our faith. There's a saying by the desert fathers and mothers of the first couple centuries that use this image of Plato to think about that reason being so important. This image of the Christian life. The Christian life is like a chariot. It was being pulled by a horse, by two horses, one anger and the other desire. Pull the chariot along with that energy. But the charioteer has a reason, and reason is the one that keeps everything in line going in the right direction. We love that illustration. It talks about reason and science, and we like all that stuff. It started really, the whole importance of reason started with the Reformation, which is where Protestantism comes from. With John Wycliffe and John Huss and John Calvin and Martin Luther, all looking to translate the Bible to learn more about it so that they would know more and then could know and understand God better. And they understood and began a city. John Calvin started a city, all based on the understanding of what they learned in Scripture, Geneva. There was a lot of emphasis put on reason and knowledge. The age of reason followed this in the 1700s, which was also interested in science and trying to prove things, etc. Faith started to come back a little bit in the 1900s with all of these congregations in our denomination anyway that just loved faith. They loved that spirit and that kind of connection with God in a way that was, chairs that roll around the aisles because of the Spirit. And so they were called the Holy Rollers. There were churches that were the churches that had people that barked like dogs. The Spirit would move them. So this kind of faith part of faith and reason was not held in the same high esteem through long periods of time. When we start to pay attention more to the Scripture, to the Bible, to our God, we learn that we need to love God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, and with all of our heart, soul, and mind. And we have a tendency to like to do that mostly with mind. We don't really believe that, the mystic part is something that we can grab onto, or that it's so easy for people to just say and believe what they want, unless there's some reason. It's so hard for us to, as Abraham did, pick up and believe and have faith in God and do as He tells us to. It is That's where the lessons about love come from. That is where the lessons about welcoming a stranger comes from. That is where God teaches us in our heart, not just in our mind. It's hard to see that and to believe it in the world, but it happens. God's compassion happens. I thought that reminded me of it. The Berlin Wall, as you all know, was torn down about, 20 years ago or so. It was torn down by people taking bricks, one brick at a time, tearing down the wall, cutting it to pieces. And you may wonder a little bit about how did that happen? And some people would say, well, it happened because of Angela Merkel. She was a German pastor at that time. She was the one who was there involved in all of the Or maybe it was because of Gorbachev and Glasnost. Or maybe it was because of Lech Walesa. Or maybe it was because of Pope John Paul II. Or there were many people involved in how this all came about. But I think one who has faith would see in that event the Spirit of God blowing and changing the world. And that's the part of religion that we need people to know about. Look at the Arab Spring. How did that happen? Was that the wind of God blowing through the world? What about Martin Luther King Jr.? What about thank you. That's the way I really feel.
Thank you, Reverend Henhart. And our next speaker is Professor Ismail Gula. He has been a Dayton resident for 33 years. He's a graduate of University of Dayton with Master's in Educational Administration. He is the co-founder of the Islamic Society of Greater Dayton that was founded in 1979. He is well known through his work in social and community services. He is also the co-founder of Islamic Federation of Ohio, Islamic Educational Foundation, Muslim Business Association, Universal Peace Council, and he's also a part of Mediation and Community Forum of City of Dayton Human Relations Council. He is currently teaching Arabic language at the University of Dayton and is a fundraising manager of the Islamic Society of Greater Dayton. Professor Gula, please join me on the stage.
I start first with the best greeting of Islam, to say Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be with you. And with this, I would like to emphasize the issue of peace. At the same time, we talk about the issue that's at hand, the issue of education in the Islamic tradition. When we say Islamic tradition, I believe we'll talk about the Jewish tradition, the Christian tradition, the tradition of the people of God. Because in Islam, that since day one of the creation of the universe, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created Adam, the father, and then Eve, the mother of all of us. From there, the prophets kept coming to humanities, one after another, for one purpose, is to guide people from darkness to light, and guide them to live according to what Allah or God want them to be at. So the train of humanity toward salvation, toward development, toward peace, tranquility, diversity started from day one. And the biggest and the most important purpose of all prophets is to make a positive difference in the life of individuals, family, neighborhood, city, and state at large. So when you see to the all prophets, all of them, and the major ones mentioned in the Quran are Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus and Muhammad, peace be upon him. Why? Because those prophets, they made a major change, and they are reformers, so to speak. They came to correct and put people back in the track that Allah showed Adam in the first day and told us in the Old Testament and the New Testament and in the Quran that He taught Adam the needs. He didn't leave us wondering and not to be guided. But from time to time, after every prophet, people deviate. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the humanity back by sending another prophet. So all of them, according to the teaching of Islam, are brothers in the faith of Islam, which means Islam's submission to the will of God. We don't differentiate between them. As maybe you know, that in order to be a Muslim, you have to believe in all of them. From Adam all the way to Muhammad. Peace be with all of them. We come to education. One of the companions been asked how the Prophet was able to change you and make a change in you. He described him in a very beautiful description, the process of changing. And he said, كَانَ يُفْرِغُنَا وَيَمْلَأُنَا. Very strong 3-4 words. He used to empty us and then he fill us. And if you think about it, that's a natural process. When you want to clean a cup, you not just add water. You have to empty the things that's not clean. But you cannot keep adding water, because the same perception, the same attitude, the same faulty of knowledge or misconception, if you just add another information without taking out the old one. So the Prophet used to take out the misconception about God, about the universe, about who they are, where they're going, where they're heading to. So the religion, the function of religion, is to answer questions. And how is it going to answer questions without asking questions? So critical thinking and not doubting, but wondering and asking about why things the way it is, and why things it's not the way it's supposed to be. We need to always encourage critical thinking and asking questions, because that's the only way to find what's right and what's wrong. Come back to Abraham, peace be with him. He is the core or the father of the prophets. But Abraham, the word Abraham in the Arabic language means the merciful father. Also in the life of Prophet Abraham, he was a model, a comprehensive model. He was a father, and before that, he was a student, a seeker of knowledge. We call it talib, and that's what's in Arabic, the name of the student. Since day one, he was young. He demonstrated all kind of critical thinking of finding the truth. It's reported in the Quran in many places that Abraham wondered many times when he was young to find God. And the first time he saw the moon, he said, "This is my God. It's bright, it's beautiful." Then when it's gone, he said, "God cannot disappear." And after reflection and thinking, after so many things around him, he saw the sun. He said, "This is bigger, this is more powerful." And then after it disappeared, He said, can be. So we use what we say. God sends 2 books. And you think I'm bringing invention here. It's always 1 book, is it? Either the Torah, the Quran, or the Bible. But there is always 2 books in this universe. There is the revelation and there is the creation. And Allah always wants us. When we read the revelation, the scripture, it's not meant to keep God in the closet. It's not meant to keep God in the mosque or church. It's not meant to keep God in the rituals and then divorce faith from what's outside. In order for the revelation to be true, it has to be compatible with what? The Creator. So Abraham applied the rule that in order to consolidate the faith, I need to believe. Seeing is believing. So in one time, he asked God himself. And the Quran says that Abraham asked God how you create death. He said, don't you believe, Abraham? أولم تؤمن قال ولكن ليطمئن قلبي. No, I'm believing, but so I can consolidate my faith. So why we ask people not to ask him question? Abraham, he challenged Namrud in his time. Namrud is the king in his time. And Namrud claimed, it's like Pharaoh to Moses. He said, I create life and I kill if I want. So Abraham was very smart enough. And he has to come up with something that's really factual. And that's the way it is for all prophets. They are true and they have true knowledge. He says, Allah brings sun from the east. Can you bring it from the west? You are God. I believe in you, O Namrud. Sun from the west. So he was puzzled. So Abraham always was a prophet of so many criteria and so many abilities. When he was young, he was tested. And he reflected in the time and challenged the time and the people. And when he was a father, he was tested in his faith. Look how much critical he was. But when he was tested in his faith, and as you know, in the Bible or the Quran, it was Isaac Ishmael, he was tested to slaughter his son. Because he was, in his dream, he saw that he supposed to do so. But then the son Ishmael and the father Abraham and the most great one, which is always being not put in the equation, his wife. The role of the woman in this story, Agar. All of them obeyed. And then God, after they do and they talk, not just the claim, the action to slaughter his house, the 2 sons, God replaced him, as you know, with a ram. And he says, O Abraham, you fulfilled the ru'ya, or the promise, or the test. Abraham is the father of all fathers, prophets. And he is the prophet that we Muslims love because he is the diverse personality that all of us, Jewish and Christian and Muslims, goes through. As far as education and the Islamic perspective of education, education starts early, not on the preschool, not in the time after 2-3 years. But education in Islam starts when a man meets a woman, and a husband chooses his wife, and a wife chooses her husband. That's where education starts. And the quality of education that the child gets, it depends on the quality of love, depends on the quality of kindness, it depends on the quality of all good things that a father and mother shower to the child. The second school that he goes through, which is motherhood. There is no such perfect school that the child gets most of his personality and education like motherhood. And after that, the school of fatherhood. And followed the school of the family. Brothers, sisters, uncles. We missed all of that. And this is what the prophets and all religions, they demonstrate the importance of family. And especially the close ones. It comes also the school of neighborhood. Because this is a reality. This is not just books. This is what every one of us go through and experience. And then it goes larger, the formal education. But beside the formal education, we have other educations and the work school. And many of us, we think that after we graduate, this learning and education stops. But no, it continues with the neighborhood involvement, with city involvement, and how much you are involved, and the main institution in many of us life, which is the church, the synagogue, or the mosque, the school. Islam promotes education at all levels. And we believe that a person does not start from learning until he dies. And that's the school of life. Formal education is very important, and it's a must. The first verse that revealed to Prophet Muhammad in the cave of Hira says, the angel of Gabriel, read. Say, an answer, what shall I read? He say, read. What shall I read? He say, read in the name of thy Lord, your Lord who has created all. So the first thing that's revealed to Prophet Muhammad is read. And also there is a supplication. It says, وَقُلْ رَبِّي زِدْنِي عِلْمًا. And make dua, and make supplication to God. Oh God, increase me in knowledge. Also, the word talib, which means a student, translation in English, but it literally means the seeker of knowledge. So when somebody goes to school or get involved in anything that has education, he is considered to be a role model to take as an example, to involve in making a difference in our life and the life of our communities. Education is the base to solve all problems. If it's family, if it's economical, if it's social, and it's the basis nowadays that when education is absent, then the crisis, the economic crisis, the political crisis, the health crisis is the outcome of the absence of education. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Professor Gulab. Now I would like to invite Mayor of the City of Dayton, Mr. Gary Lightsell, to make closing remarks.
Thank you. On behalf of the City of Dayton, I want to thank everyone for coming out this evening. You know, I've heard people thank me, we're thanking the speakers, we're thanking the guests and everything, but I think we really need to thank the cooks, don't you? That food was excellent, and I wanted to thank the cooks because I understand this is the first one of these, and I want to make sure that there's a second and a third and a fourth. Right? Today, I'll be very brief. Today's been a very international day for me. I woke up this morning, I homeschooled my daughter. We got to teaching her about ancient Greece and drama and the theater. And then I had to do a live phone interview with the BBC in England because we had the Prime Minister here and the President here, and I had to go meet them at Wright Pat Air Force Base. And then I get to come here and be amongst all these wonderful international people and some city employees that I know. And enjoy great food, and which basically adds to the international flavor of this Dayton. And while I'm sitting here talking to Sirkin, he's telling me that there are going to be between 50 and 100 more Turkish families hopefully arriving in Dayton in 2012, and then they're hoping maybe 50 a year beyond that. And he was asking for information, you know, how do we help these people? So I brought my iPad and I brought up the Welcome Dayton website, www.welcomedayton.org, and I suggest you all check it out. There's a little services link, and it links you to the Catholic Social Services, the Community Service, the Legal Services, and I just want you to know that, so that when people call you and talk to you about Dayton and they have questions, you can direct them to the website that we put together. And Tom Rollrapp, who's here in the audience, has been instrumental in making all this happen. And you know, help people come here from all over the world. We are on the spotlight of the world right now, and we haven't been there since 1994 when we had the peace talks here at Wright Pat Air Force Base. So I want to encourage everyone to take every opportunity to I guess, relish this moment and help people from all over the world come here so that we can make Dayton an international place and a place where people thrive and we all get along and in peace and harmony, which is pretty much what today's meeting was about. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you again, and I look forward to hoping to see you.
Back to the stage, please. We would like to recognize two individuals who were helpful to our community here in Dayton. First, I would like to invite for recognition Ms. Judy Scheid, who is an ESL coordinator here in Dayton. Are you with us?
From my office, basically, and appreciation for meritorious community service. From the Niagara Foundation, Abrahamic Traditions Dinner, March 13, 2012. So I just want to give this to you.
And I would like to invite Mr. Basel Ednamara. He's an information technology specialist at the Air Force Research Laboratory.
Again, an appreciation for your meritorious service. Thank you.
Reverend Hancock, Mr. President, Mr. Brown.
Actually, we prepared a small kind of like a memory for tonight for our distinguished speakers. And I would like to ask Mayor of Dayton to submit that one of the gifts to Mr. Brown. And the second gift is for the Reverend Hanhart, and I would like to invite the President of Turkish American Society of Ohio, Mr. Özgür. And I would like to invite right now the chair of the board of Turkish Askan Elders Associations, Hasan, Mr. Hasan. Stand up. And I would like to ask Mr. Mayor one more time to submit another extra appreciation to our MC, Ayşe King, please. And thank you very much for coming, you all. And plus that, honestly, this is a very, very busy day for Mr. Mayor, as you actually heard from him. And this is a very difficult time for my guest because the President and the Prime Minister of England is at the game right now. But he dedicated his time, and because of the promise to come when he came here, and to show our appreciation, we just also prepared a small gift for him, so he can, when you take a look at this gift, he will remember us. That's the hope from us.
Joining us this evening, and we hope that you enjoyed all of our speakers.